Hey guys, it's Jade from Support the Scene. A few people have been asking me about how to get the best audio when live streaming. So there's a couple of different ways. Some you can do using software, some you can do using hardware. It all kind of depends on what exactly you want to live stream, the kind of quality you want, and how much control you want over it. So I came up with a quick video with a few different options on live streaming to suit your needs. All of them require computer, require 1/4-inch cables, XLR cables, an interface, sometimes two interfaces. I'll get into that, but also interfaces that hook up through USB to your computer. So first off is a super simple setup. This is a pretty standard recording setup. So a lot of people who have home studios or things that they can record at home with, this is kind of basically their setup, where they have an interface that goes into the computer that also goes out onto speakers that they can listen to and monitor and all that kind of stuff like that. Now it has two inputs, which you can use both 1/4-inch or XLR. So if you're doing a keyboard, you can plug your 1/8-inch to a 1/4-inch adapter, plug it into the one of the inputs, or you can plug your guitar pickup from 1/4-inch to 1/4-inch. You can mic up your guitar with a microphone. You can sing into a microphone. There's a ton of different things. It's really easy, really versatile. It goes straight into your computer. Now, one of the things is that when you live stream, you can select your interface as an audio source. So instead of using your laptop mic speaker or your computer mic speaker, you can use your interface as the input. Now, what that means is that the input that's going into it will be going to the stream. Doesn't mean that your audio from your computer will be going. So let's say you have your guitar plugged in and you have it going through Logic, Pro Tools, any kind of DAW software, anything like that. Or you have your vocal going in through some reverb, some compression. It doesn't mean that it's going to show up on the live stream or the video as that compressed reverb sound. It will show up as a dry signal coming straight in through your interface. So what that means is that everything you send into your interface will be dry, will be the sound source, and you won't be able to EQ, you can't compress, you can't do anything but change the levels with the gain on the front of your interface. If you want to hear how that sounds, a lot of interfaces has a mix dial where you can hear the input versus the DAW. This is super handy, being able to hear the levels between your vocals and the guitar. Let's say if you're doing a guitar singer-songwriter kind of thing, you can take a listen to it through your monitors and be like, okay, cool, I like that. And then also, you have your headphones, which will help feedback issues between having your speakers up too loud and then having it feedback through the microphone. Super simple setup. You can select it as your webcam source for your audio, and whatever you put into it will be just super dry signal. So if you have a guitar that you plugged in, you can't use your guitar's amp simulations, and nothing like that will show up. It'll just be a dry guitar sound. So it works for acoustics, vocals. It works for something nice and simple. It works if you have a keyboard, or if you have a MIDI drum kit that you have a headphone out, 1/4-inch that goes into one of the inputs. You can get something that sounds better than just the microphone built into your computer or your laptop. So setup number 2 is going to basically be your way to hear everything from the computer, as well as everything that you're sending through, and then any compression, any EQs, anything that you do with your DAW, you will be able to hear that go through straight into the other interface. I'll explain it a little bit in a second, but basically it gives you a lot more control. You're able to hear any software, any backing tracks, anything you have going through your DAW, or even through YouTube, or anything that your computer makes sound wise will be going through. So if you're watching a movie, that audio will also be going through straight to your webcam. Now, how I made that work is I have two interfaces, just super basic interfaces, 2 ins, 2 outs, and I made it work. So as you can see from the diagram, I have the one interface hooked up into the computer, and then I have the other interface hooked up into the computer. But then coming out from the first interface, from the stereo outs on the back, what you would plug into the monitors, that goes into the input of the second interface. So that goes into the front, like out of the back of the first interface into the front of the second interface. Make sure its levels are pretty nominal. Both the input 1 and input 2 are the same because you're doing stereo. You can do mono. You may get only sound on the left ear. It may be kind of odd. So using 2 cables, 2 1/4-inch cables normally with these cheaper interfaces, that's kind of what works. Make sure, once again, your input levels are equal, whether they're down or whether they're up. But then the biggest trick is making sure the output from the first interface should be pretty nominal, either up around 12 or a little down or a little up, whatever you want. Just make sure that your output is up so you're sending signal from interface 1. That will then go to interface 2. Then from interface 2, you can either have your headphones, or you can have from that to your speakers if you want to do it that way. You can still listen to everything. It works great. You're basically running a bit of a signal chain at the current moment, but it will work. So the biggest thing is that you go and you make sure in your audio interface, in your audio settings in your computer, that your input is still the first interface, and that the output is still the first interface. It's very important, just in a way that you have to still have signal coming out of your first interface as if you were just listening to monitors. This allows you to have your computer sounds, to have your DAW sounds, to have everything like that coming out of your first interface. So make sure your sound is still set so that it's using your first interface. Basically then, everything that your computer normally does is going through the first interface. Getting into your webcam settings, when you're actually on your webcam, make sure your microphone settings are set to your second interface. That means whatever's coming into the second interface is what's going to show up on the webcam audio. So it means you're sending from your first interface, which has all your sounds, your guitars, your audio, your mics, your computer sounds, everything like that. And then it's showing up on your second interface, which is therefore going into the webcam audio. So if you're doing your audio output, make sure it's going to the interface that you want it to. If you're listening to your speakers that are plugged into your second interface, make sure your audio output is your second interface. If you have your headphones plugged in on your first interface, make sure your audio output on your webcam is your first interface. The audio that'll come through who you're face chatting with, or if you want to monitor yourself, where that audio is going. So just make sure you can hear yourself, or you can hear the other people. On your system output settings, if it is set to your first interface, make sure you have your headphones plugged into the first interface. Sounds simple, but it's easy to forget. Have everything plugged into your second interface and wonder why you can't hear anything. So it's a little bit of a trickier setup. You have your first interface, you have your second interface. Both are connected to the USB, but the second interface, the outputs are still free. So you could plug in your speakers, the headphone jack's free, so you can plug in your headphones, whatever you want to do. On your first interface is where you would plug in your guitars, your bass, just as if you're recording. Works great with your DAW, with Logic, with Pro Tools. Then you can basically do compression, you can do reverbs, you can do your whole mix within your DAW. And then once that sounds great, you know that that's a sound that's going out towards your webcam, because that's what's going into your second DAW. Be sure to check out all my other videos, subscribe, let me know if this helped. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'll try and make a follow-up video. But this worked for me. It's not necessarily the cheapest, because you have to have a second interface. Now that can work with a bunch of different things. You can work with a $40 interface, you can work with a $150 interface, you can work with $2,000 interface, but it works the best if you have two, at least with stereo, with like two inputs and obviously quarter inch or XLR outputs. So it's just about giving the best quality audio for that you're live streaming. If you're doing some teaching, if you're doing classes, it's just an easy way to do it. Hope it works out. Comment down below once again, and I'll hope to help you guys out. You can get the second interface off Amazon. It helps you out. I know it says it may take a while for delivery, but from experience and from friends' experience, it still comes in the same amount of time if you have Prime or if you pick a faster delivery. So hope it works. Rock on, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.